Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Good evening, I'm David Kramer here with your Alaska weather. As always, please visit our website at arh.noaa.gov, get any updates to our forecast there, or you can check out any watches, warnings, or advisories that we may have out for the state. You can also call our weather info line 1-800-472-0391, and you can follow us on both Twitter and on Facebook. Starting off, we'll take a look at our hazardous weather with some warnings that we have out. All three of these are red flag warnings. Those are for the upper Kuskokwim Valley, up towards Delta Junction and the eastern part of the Alaska Range. Sorry, this is not for the upper Kuskokwim Valley. That is for around the Denali area. And those are all out until 10 p.m. on Saturday. For all three of these zones and the zone of the upper Kuskokwim Valley, we have a wind advisory out till 6 p.m. So 4 wind advisories out till 6 p.m. tomorrow, and we have 3 red flag warnings out until 10 p.m. tomorrow night. Up towards the north, 2 flood advisories out. Both of those are out until 1:15 a.m. on Sunday morning, and those are for the northeastern part of the Brooks Range and the southeastern part of the Brooks Range. Looking at our fire danger, not surprisingly, we have some fire danger throughout the areas where the red flag warnings are, but that also extends up throughout much of the interior, especially the areas out to the east. A little bit further south in the Copper River Basin, we have some fire danger out there as well, and then in the south central extending down to the western parts of the Kenai Peninsula. Taking a look at our satellite imagery, we'll start off moving into the Gulf of Alaska from the North Pacific. We have a low pressure system here with the front extending off of that and a lot of southerly flow with this system moving up and bringing a lot of moisture along the Gulf Coast and into the southeast part of the state. You can see this low progressing up, bringing a lot of cloud cover and moisture to the areas all the way up the southeast through the south central part of the state. So you look again, we can see a lot of cloud cover moving in over much of mainland Alaska. However, a lot of the rain is getting caught up in the Alaska Range and not making it into the interior. As we look out further to the west, we have a weaker low that is moving through the Bering Sea right now, bringing some rain into those areas, and we can watch this progress further to the south. And then way out to the west, we have a weak low pressure system moving to the southeast that is bringing some rain to the central Aleutian Islands. Then taking a look now at our weather for the rest of today, we can see that low pressure bringing in the rain, central Aleutian Islands there. Our other weak low out in the Bering Sea bringing in some areas of rain closer to the Pribilof Islands. Down in the Alaska Peninsula, we are seeing some rain showers, especially on the Bering side there. Then our main low coming up from the south, bringing a lot of moisture from the south towards areas of the Panhandle, extending along the Gulf Coast into the south central, including Kodiak Island there, and places in the southwest as well, all around the Bristol Bay area. A lot of the circulation around this low, keeping in a lot of the warmer air, especially out to the east. And then as we move along the west coast of the state, more northerly flow there, but we still have a lot of rain extending up from the YK Delta all the way up to the Point Hope area, but starting to mix with snow as we get up along the Arctic coastline, extending out towards Dead Horse. So you look into the tonight period, staying way out west, we have high pressure building in from the west with just some isolated areas of rain underneath that for the western Aleutian Islands, some areas of rain extending up into the Alaska Peninsula. But with our main low over the state, we're bringing in a lot of colder air over the nighttime hours down into the Bering Sea. So we're going to start to see the rain mix with snow, extending into the Bristol Bay area, YK Delta area, some areas of fog lingering there with the northerly flow bringing into the YK Delta area. And then we have rain extending for the Seward Peninsula, but the colder air off to the west, bringing in rain and snow mix to St. Lawrence Island. And up along the Arctic coastline, freezing rain and snow mix up there, extending out towards Dead Horse once again. So we move south into the Brooks Range, starting to become more rain again, extending out to the western parts of the interior. Then as we look out over the eastern parts, still pretty dry there. But as we get into the Alaska range and other ranges, as we move down into the Aleutian range as well, those higher elevations, we are expecting to see some snow mixing with the rain overnight. But as we get into the lower places and places further along the Gulf Coast, expecting that to be primarily rain and extending out into the southeast part of the state. As we look into Saturday, rain continuing throughout much of the southeast, through the Gulf coastline, into places throughout the south central. We have an area there mixed with snow, and that's primarily higher elevations above 2,500 feet, and that's going to be mostly in the morning hours as well. As we move out to the southwest part of the state, still seeing a lot of that colder air being brought in due to the low pressure over mainland Alaska, bringing the rain and snow mix to the Bristol Bay, YK Delta, and lower Kuskokwim valleys. Then down for Kodiak Island, extending out into the Aleutian Islands, expecting that to be predominantly rain until we get out towards our high pressure, where we are going to see some areas of fog underneath that. For much of the west coast, we're going to see rain around the Seward Peninsula, but colder as we get off to the west again. Gamble going to see a rain and snow mix, and then rain and snow mix continue along the Arctic coast until we get around Barrow, where that's going to be predominantly snow. For Sunday, our high pressure is going to move further off to the east, leaving more widespread areas of fog out towards the western Aleutian Islands. A few areas of rain as we get closer to the Pribilofs, but as we get over mainland Alaska, still going to see a lot of rain throughout the Bristol Bay, YK Delta areas. A little bit warmer now as that low has moved off and we're losing a lot of that northerly flow. But for the lower Kuskokwim Valley, still a little cold air lingering there, expecting to see a rain and snow mix. However, for Kodiak Island, the south central, and down towards places in the northern part of the southeast, we are going to see some rain there. Extending up towards the Alaska range, going to see that rain, but as we get to the eastern sides of the interior, pretty dry still there. Western parts of the interior, going to see a lot more rain. And then a rain and snow mix from the Norton Sound all the way up the coastline, and then throughout places north of the Brooks Range. Except for Barrow, going to be cold enough to see primarily snow there on Sunday. Taking a look at our temperatures for this afternoon, in the upper 40s to mid 50s for the southeast, 55 for Haines. And then as we move out towards the south central part of the state, in the lower to mid 50s there. A little bit colder towards Kodiak Island, 48 degrees this afternoon. Into the interior part of the state, mid 50s to mid 60s. Warmer as we get closer to Eagle, 77 degrees there. 57 for Arctic Village, and then along the Arctic coastline, staying below freezing, with the coldest being Barrow, 25 degrees there this afternoon. In the Kotzebue Sound area, mid 40s to mid 50s. Down in the Norton Sound area, in the lower to mid 40s there, with Nome, 41 degrees. Down in the southwest part of the state, YK Delta, right around 40 degrees. Warmer as we get further inland, Antioch, 46 degrees. Down in the Bristol Bay area, mid 40s for most locations. A little bit colder at Iliamna there, 41 degrees. For Cape Newingham, 36 degrees. Down in the Alaska Peninsula, lower to mid 40s there. And throughout the Aleutian Islands, mid 40s, a little bit colder towards Shimia, 40 degrees there. And right around 40 for the Pribilofs. For our lows tonight, we are seeing temperatures right around 40 degrees throughout the Aleutian Islands, extending into the Alaska Peninsula, where temperatures are going to drop down into the mid 30s there. Pribilof Islands expecting to see temperatures down to as low as 36 degrees for St. Paul. Then in the YK Delta area, mid 30s there. A little bit colder at Macoriac, dropping down to 33 degrees. In the Norton Sound area, dropping into the upper 30s there. Nome getting down to 38. Colder at Gamble, getting down to 33 degrees with that northerly flow they are expecting to see there. Kotzebue Sound area right around 40. Colder as we get further off to the west, but Kotzebue expecting to see 44 degrees. Then up along the Arctic coast, going to stay right below the freezing mark with 28 degrees expected for Barrow. Taking us into the interior part of the state, dropping down into the 40s for most locations, staying a little bit warmer there for Fort Yukon, 51 degrees expected low tonight. Delta Junction a little bit warmer too, 49 degrees expected low for them. And then as we get into the south central, right around 40 degrees, a little bit warmer for Kodiak, 42 degrees expected low there. And then down in the southeast part of the state, dropping down into the upper 40s to right around 50 degrees expected for Skagway. So look at our highs for tomorrow, staying in the southeast part of the state, getting up to the upper 50s to right around 60 degrees. With Juneau 60 degrees, Skagway 61 degrees. Along the Gulf Coast, we can see temperatures getting up right around 50 degrees for many places throughout the south central. 53 expected for Glen Allen. And then as we get into the interior, some warmer temperatures, especially as you get further out to the east. Warmer out towards Fort Yukon, 68 degrees there, Eagle 69 degrees, and then as we get up into the Brooks Range through the pass, 55 degrees there, 60 degrees for Arctic Village expected high tomorrow. Then along the Arctic coastline, getting up above freezing but not much. Barrow only getting up to 34 degrees, a little bit warmer for Dead Horse, 38 degrees expected high. Down in the Kotzebue Sound area, mid 40s to mid 50s. Kotzebue a little bit colder there, 44 degrees. Down in the Norton Sound area, mid 40s there. Nome getting up to 46. Colder towards Gamble, we are going to see 37 degrees high tomorrow. Down in the YK Delta area, getting into the mid 40s there. Colder still out towards the west. And then as we get into the Bristol Bay area, in the mid 40s there, 44 for Dillingham, 45 for King Salmon. In the Aleutian Islands, getting colder as we get further off to the west. In the lower 40s there, with St. Paul only getting up to 37 degrees for a high tomorrow. This takes us into our aviation forecast, and then as we look out over much of the Bering Sea, widespread MVFR conditions covering the Aleutian Islands as well, with some more IFR conditions with that northerly flow mixing with those areas of snow there. Going to see that throughout the eastern Bering Sea. Those MVFR conditions are going to spread throughout much of the southwest part of the state, extending into southwest places of the interior as well, throughout the south central, and then along the coastline into the northern parts of the southeast. Some IFR conditions expected with that southerly flow bringing in the lower clouds and rain to those areas. Along the Arctic coastline, we are going to see some MVFR and IFR conditions there as well. Taking a look through the passes, Anaktuvik should be VFR for tomorrow. Adigan Pass is also expected to be VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill both expected to be MVFR tomorrow. Rainy Pass should also be MVFR for tomorrow's forecast. Windy a little bit lower there. IFR conditions expected throughout the day. Isabel Pass, MVFR conditions there. Mentasta, a little bit nicer VFR conditions expected for tomorrow. Tanita dropping down to marginal conditions. And Portage as well, going to be MVFR for tomorrow. Takes us to Chilkoot and White. Going to both start off IFR, but going to clear a little bit to MVFR conditions as we move throughout the day. Taking us to our freezing level, we can see a lot of warm air being brought in due to that low pressure over much of the interior part of the state. A little cold pocket as we get closer to Yakutat there. And then on the western side of that low pressure system, bringing in the cold air down into the Bering Sea, bringing us a lot of that snow into places around the Bristol Bay area. So we look at our icing for tomorrow, widespread from the central Bering Sea out over much of mainland Alaska, out towards the Seward Peninsula area above 10,000 feet there, but dropping down as we get further to the south towards Kodiak Island above 7,000 feet. But as we move further off to the east, raising up again above 10,000 feet out there. Taking a look at our jet stream, we'll start off in the west where we have a branch of the jet coming in just to the north of the Aleutian Islands, about 90 knots there, and then just kind of hovering right by the Aleutians out over the Gulf of Alaska at 90 knots on the southern side of that low pressure system. Then 65 knots coming back across the state, and then exiting out at 95 towards the east, just off the coastline of mainland Alaska. As we look down at 9,000 feet, primary flow is around the low pressure that sits over the western part of the state. And the strongest winds associated with that are off to the southeast, bringing southerly flow of around 40 knots to places in between the Prince William Sound area and towards Yakutat. And that's going to drop down pretty quickly to 25 knots as we get over the state. But we also have an area towards Ketchikan out of a southerly direction, 40 knots there at 9,000 feet. So look out over the western part of the state, flow mostly between 25 and 30 knots, a little bit weaker as we get closer towards the western Aleutian Islands, only around 20 knots out of a northwesterly direction there. That takes us down to 3,000 feet, northwesterly flow 20 to 30 knots, getting stronger as we get closer to the low, but right near the low center, only around 15 knots out of a northerly direction. Again, at this level, we have stronger winds on the southeast side, getting up to 30 to 35 knots there out of a southwesterly direction. As we come over the state, though, dropping down 20 to 30 knots there, closer to the low, we're going to see winds around 15 knots. Then over the southeast part of the state, around 20 knots there, dropping down to 15 knots as we move off into Canada. Takes us to our turbulence charts, starting off near the Yakutat area, extending from right around Sitka along the Gulf coastline. A little bit stronger there below 5,000 feet, but that is expected to diminish as we move throughout the day as the winds there start to drop down. The main area of turbulence, though, is going to extend well off into the Bristol Bay area, where we are going to see some stronger winds below 6,000 feet, creating some areas of turbulence there. That does include Kodiak Island and moves up towards the Bethel area. As we move up towards the northern part of the state throughout the Brooks Range, we are going to see some turbulence there below 5,000 feet. And if you stay with us, we'll be back shortly with the marine forecast.
Good evening, I'm Harry Keeling, and on behalf of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and Alaska Public Media, welcome to Hangar Flying. Our guest is Angie Slingluff. Angie's been on the program before a number of times. She's an FAA aviation and space education specialist. She's been in Alaska since 1986 and has been a private pilot for almost 20 years. She's a member of the 99s, a past chapter chairman, and she's been involved in a number of different aviation education programs, a cause she ardently believes in. Angie, welcome back to Hangar Flying.
Thank you very much, Harry.
Now, you mentioned to me on more than one occasion that you felt you currently have your dream job, and now you're about to retire. In fact, I think today, Friday, May 30th, is your last day.
It is.
What's with that?
Well, it's mixed feelings because I really enjoyed my job and I enjoy working with young people, and I intend to continue being involved with young people in some way, shape, or form because we need kids in aviation.
Well, I want to take this opportunity on behalf of the aviation public here in Alaska and thank you for all you've done for aviation education, because it really has been spectacular. You've got a passion about aviation education and our children, and it certainly comes out. And so thank you for everything you've done. And in fact, I want to take a little bit of time talking about a couple of specific programs. NASA Smart Skies?
NASA Smart Skies is a product they developed to teach math to grades 5 through 9 using an air traffic control simulator. And I've had first graders solve the 2 airplane problem, and I've had adults sit there for half an hour trying to solve the 5 airplane problem. And it really engages them. It's a distance, rate, and time problem that's familiar with every pilot. How far can I go? How fast do I have to go? Is there anybody in my way? And they really get involved in it. In the classroom, they immediately start helping each other to solve the problem. So it's a fun program. They also have it on the I operating system as Sector 33, and it's totally free from the Play Store for Sector 33 or from nasa.gov, Google for Smart Skies, and you'll find it.
So how many young people have gone through that program?
Oh, gee whiz, I couldn't tell you. I've done career fairs. I try to show it at every career fair I do, and I probably have done about 17 or 20 career fairs a year in the last 7 years.
Well, let's talk about another program I know you're heavily involved with, and that's the Build-A-Plane program.
Oh, that's one that's dear to my heart. Build-A-Plane is a national nonprofit that puts wrecked airplanes in the hands of kids to rebuild or to restore or to turn into museum models. We've had several Build-A-Plane projects in the state, and I'm very proud of CHEVAC. And CHEVAC has outstanding this past week for having 2 Gates Scholars come out of the village. But they built a RANS S6 Coyote 2 in 2000. It started in 2011. It was a kit plane. And they received the plane parts in August. It was certified and test flown in March. And it came to Anchorage to the Aviation Gathering in May and then went to Oshkosh in July. And it was a beautiful little plane. Everybody couldn't believe that kids built that plane.
Wow.
That's one of them. The other one is the Talkeetna Build-A-Plane project. It's highly successful. It's been going on in Talkeetna for several years. The entire community is behind this project. And he has about 30 kids involved in it, and they're working on a Cherokee 6. And they work 50 hours on the project. They get a jacket with a logo on it. For every 20 hours over the initial 50 they work, they get a free flight hour. They get chevrons once they've mastered a skill, such as riveting or wiring. And it's been a wonderful program. In fact, 4 of the students are supposed to go to UAF for the aviation maintenance program this fall.
Great.
Makes a difference.
So what's the next step? Retirement, and where are you heading?
I'm going to New Mexico. I want 340 days of sunshine and not too much snow to shovel.
Whereabouts in New Mexico?
A little town called Cochiti Lake. It's about 25 miles southwest of Santa Fe, about 400 people. They tell me that it has the highest population of PhDs, but I don't have a PhD, so I don't quite reach that level.
How'd you find out about it? How'd you
Well, we had a realtor. We were looking at New Mexico. My housemate had bicycled through New Mexico, liked the high desert, said, well, let's go there. And so we spent a week last August and went and looked, see, and went all over. One place was too hot, another place had too many people. So we found this place through a realtor. Delightful little town of 400 people.
Wow, that's exciting. Well, once again, well, let me give you a final word. You got about a minute left. Final words to the aviation public out there?
Remember, we need young people in aviation. We really need to engage them. Aviation's the perfect hook to get kids into science, technology, engineering, and math. That's part of why I'm passionate about it. There's opportunities for young kids, and they just don't know. They don't even know we exist, and if they don't know about the aviation careers, they're never going to look at them. So every pilot out there, please, please, please talk to kids. Show them your airplane. Offer them a ride. And volunteer with Young Eagles or the Youth Aviation Adventure event.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all you've done, and I hope you find a way to keep involved.
I will, through CAP or one way or another.
Thanks for being on the program tonight.
Thank you, Harry.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program, and I know if you could, you would join me in thanking Angie for all she's done for aviation and flying in the state of Alaska. So until next time, fly safe.
Welcome back. We'll take a quick look at the ice edge. We can see here at St. Lawrence Island, we still have ice extending up into the Bering Strait, and we also still have some shore-fast ice up along the Arctic coastline. Taking a look now in the southeast part of the state at our winds and waves, we have primarily southwesterly flow becoming more southerly as we get further to the north. That's all around 15 to 20 knots. A little bit different towards the Ketchikan area out of a southeasterly direction. Seas in the inside waters 3 to 4 feet. Out in the Gulf, we have 9 to 11 foot seas there. Then on Sunday, flow switching up in the southerly locations, northwesterly direction 20 to 25 knots. As we get further to the north, we have a southerly direction there around 15 knots. Let's look over the south central part of the state, primarily flow out of a southwesterly direction, all around 25 to 30 knots there, becoming more southerly as we get further to the north. Seas out in the Gulf 11 to 12 feet, and then as we look further to the west, we have seas anywhere from 6 to 7 feet there. On Sunday, flow switching up, becoming more westerly and a lot weaker, 10 to 15 knots out west. As we get out in the Gulf, we do have flow out of a more southwesterly direction, 15 to 20 knots there. And for Prince William Sound out of the east, 10 knots. Seas dropping down to 6 to 8 feet out in the Gulf. Then for the southwest part of the state, in the Alaska Peninsula area, southwesterly flow, 25 knots there, seas 8 to 9 feet. Then on Sunday, dropping down to 15 to 20 knots and switching up to become a little bit more westerly. Strongest seas on the Pacific side, 7 to 8 feet there, with 4 to 5 on the Bering side. As you look out over the Aleutian Islands, primary flow out of a northeasterly direction, a little bit different there. South of Dutch Harbor, we have westerly flow 20 knots, but for the most part, northeast 15 to 20 knots there. Strongest seas on the Pacific side up to around 8 feet, and then way out west, we have southerly flow around 20 knots there. On Sunday, going to keep that southerly flow, 20 knots, but we're going to start to move to a more southeasterly direction as we get further off to the east, 15 knots there, and then variable flow around 10 knots as we get further off towards the east. Along the west coast of the state, northwesterly flow becoming more westerly, 15 to 20 knots, with seas anywhere from 4 to 7 feet, the strongest as we get further to the south. Then on Sunday, we have flow around the Pribilofs dropping down to be variable at 10 knots, and then out of a more southerly flow becoming more westerly as we get further to the north, 15 to 20 knots there. Along the Arctic coast, we do have easterly flow, 30 knots, becoming more northeasterly as we get further off to the west, and then northerly, 25 to 30 knots as we get closer towards the Bering Strait. Then on Sunday, right around the area near Shishmaref out of the west, 15 knots. Otherwise, flow is going to be pretty similar to Saturday with easterly flow becoming more northeasterly, 25 to 30 knots all the way along the Arctic coastline. Taking a quick recap for tonight's weather, we have a low pressure system that is moving closer to the Alaska Peninsula, bringing a lot of rain throughout the southeast, extending up along the Gulf coastline, down to areas around Kodiak Island into the southwest part of the state as well. Thing to notice here is that for the higher elevations through the Aleutian Range and the Alaska Range and other ranges, whether it be in the Kenai Peninsula or around the south central, we are going to see at higher elevations mixed with snow there with some of the colder air that's being brought in from the north and west. Those mix of rain and snow is also going to be out in the Bristol Bay, YK Delta, and Pribilof areas. But up through the main part of the state, western parts of the interior extending out towards the Seward Peninsula, predominantly rain there. So you get along the Arctic coastline, a freezing rain and snow mix. And then as we start moving down towards the St. Lawrence Island area, we are going to see rain and snow there. Along the Aleutian Islands, expecting to see rain diminishing underneath the high pressure, but still a little present throughout the night for the western Aleutian Islands. Taking us into Saturday, high pressure moving in further to the east, bringing in some fog now for the western Aleutian Islands and pushing back the rain further to the east. We are going to see continued northerly flow, bringing in rain and snow mix from the Pribilof Islands towards the YK Delta and Bristol Bay areas, extending up into the lower Kuskokwim Valley as well. Rain throughout much of the Alaska Peninsula, but still some of those higher elevations, even along the Kenai Peninsula, extending to the south central, especially in the morning hours, going to see a mix of snow there, probably somewhere above 2,500 feet, and then rain throughout much of the rest of the south central down into the southeast. Kodiak Island going to see rain as well on Saturday. Then up in the western parts of the interior, going to continue to see rain extending out towards the Seward Peninsula, but Gamble's still going to see that rain and snow mix. And then up along the Arctic coast, rain and snow mix there with snow for the Barrow area. On Sunday, Barrow going to continue to see snow, but otherwise along the north slope, we are going to see rain and snow mix extending down the western part of the state now throughout the Seward Peninsula and Norton Sound area out towards St. Lawrence Island as well. Other parts of the interior expecting to see rain out west, pretty dry out in the eastern part. Going to see rain from Sitka further to the northwest into the south central. Lower Kuskokwim Valley still going to see a mix of rain and snow, and high pressure going to bring in fog to the western Aleutian Islands. With Alaska Weather, I'm David Kramer. I want to thank you for being with us tonight.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.